Hey, welcome back to Podcast for Your Life. We're in the middle of an awesome conversation with our guest, Chauncey Allmond, and we're talking about gardens for your life.
And I'm Jam, and I'm still here. And I just realized, too, that your almonds grow, don't they? And that's your last name?
They do.
Yeah. Wow. Have you grown almonds?
I have not.
Okay.
Oh, man. It'd be like, that's it. That's the bucket list.
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe if I can fit one more tree in, that might be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. As we've been talking, I've thought of some garden stories. I have never really, gardened before.
Okay.
But I've thought of some interesting things that I thought might be cool to share with you.
Okay.
One of them is this one time I went to great length to bring some interesting seeds to my dad, who loves to grow stuff. He hasn't really done gardening as much, but he'll grow trees and stuff.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
And he likes to do flowers and bushes and stuff. So I was in Zimbabwe for a trip with the organization we used to work with, and I was able to, I think it's been long enough, it's probably past the statute of limitations, but I was able to smuggle some mahogany tree seeds out of Zimbabwe.
What?
I put them in with my trail mix, so it looks like it's a pretty good way to do it. I mean,
That's actually really good. TSA, he's going on record here saying...
it's going to be fine. The story ends fine.
Okay.
But just so you guys know, there's good reasons for those rules about not to do this, and you should definitely follow those rules.
Okay, good to know.
But so I smuggled about 8 of those back to the U.S. and gave them to my dad for his birthday, and he planted them. And I was like, well, we'll see. I mean, maybe the conditions aren't going to be right, but Zimbabwe's got some similar climate stuff to Texas. It has a super dry time and then a really wet time. That's kind of, we have a little bit different, but that's kind of what it's like here.
Similar
and
climate.
So he started just kind of growing them in a pot to get them to sprout up and stuff, and they all sprouted up. And it was this amazing, whoa, they're actually working. Yeah. And then they started sprouting up enough, and I don't know how this works, but one day squirrels thought to investigate the pot that he had them. It was a pretty large pot that he had them sprouting in, and they dug all of them up and took them.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So this I had all this effort, and I was like, "This is the coolest gift ever." Blah blah blah, and these squirrels ruined it. So
Damn squirrels.
I know, isn't that weird
They
too?
had good taste, though.
I mean, maybe they thought they buried some acorns there or something. I don't know how that works, but they definitely are the ones that did it. I mean, I don't think it was birds. I think it was pretty sure it was squirrels.
Did the seed look like a nut? Because an oak tree, acorns looks like,
It looks like it's like a black oval. And then part of it, that the part that actually holds on to the seed on the trees, part of it is actually pretty orange. So it's like this, when you take one, if it still has that orange part on there, it's not necessary for growth, but it's just the part that kind of held on to the seed on the tree. So most mahogany seeds, at least the Zimbabwean mahogany or whatever species it is black and orange looking.
That's so cool.
It's very unusual.
Mahogany wood's beautiful.
So that was a heartbreaking gardening story.
Yeah.
But I have a cool one that's a lot less heartbreaking.
Oh,
to
please
follow up
tell
with.
us.
Yeah, we need to pick me up after that story.
Yeah. So I went to New Zealand in November, my wife and I did, and they have a redwood forest in New Zealand, which is crazy because I think with a lot of things happening in California and fires and stuff, back close to 100 years ago, they thought, they were also trying to figure out what could grow well in New Zealand because it's was a very, very late settled place. And so,
Besides orcs.
Yeah, besides orcs and wizards and stuff. And so somebody thought, well, why don't we take some redwoods over and grow them? One, it'll be kind of like satellite redwoods so that the amazingness of the redwoods aren't in one place that could potentially be destroyed or burned or something. And so they're also just curious if it would grow well. And the conditions in New Zealand are so perfect, so much better than where the redwoods naturally grew in California, that they grew really well and way faster.
Oh.
And so there are redwoods in New Zealand that are many times younger, but just as big as the ones in California.
Do any of them talk yet?
None of them talk or move around yet.
Or do they talk when you're not there?
I don't know the answer to that. But isn't that so strange?
It is.
You're talking about the conditions have to be right.
Yeah.
In this case, it was the conditions were even more right than they expected. But it's weird. It's
so
incredible.
weird.
And I've been to both redwood forests. I've been to the one in San Francisco area as well. And so I was like, yeah, many of them feel just as big.
Wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
So
Wow.
There you go.
That's it.
I thought you were gonna say you brought a redwood home, planted in your backyard, and now it's like it's so much taller than all the other Texas trees. in your
Totally took
backyard.
over.
You're just like, yeah, it's like that tree from Avatar, just way taller than everyone else's.
I bet the conditions in North Texas are not quite as suitable.
We don't have volcanic soil.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Speaking of raspberries and blackberries, from last week, I grew up in a house that had native blackberry and raspberry bushes in the backyard, and so it was really cool because they were very, very small, but they grew natively or whatever. They were wild, they were untamed. I don't know what the word is for. Well, they're wild berries. There you go, wild berries.
Yeah, wild
There you
berries.
go.
Literally wild berries.
Yeah.
I'm always like, where'd they get that phrase from? Oh, that's from. But it's funny because like we had like, you know, a nice backyard, we had a playground, but then there was like this weird shrubbery bush stuff, and in them was that. So it was like there were thorns mixed in with like raspberries and blackberries and stuff, and so every summer we'd come out and they'd be like really, really tiny ones, and we're like, oh, so cool, but they were like so fresh. Like a fresh berry is like unlike anything you get at the store. It's like a little bit firmer, and most of the time they were very sour, but they still were just like, oh, this came in our backyard.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
so cool.
Dang, that is cool.
Last week you asked about why people garden these days. Cost is another thing. You know, so if you buy a pack of seeds, let's say,
Yeah.
that may be $2, you know, you can get multiple things growing off of $2 versus going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, So it's a cost savings as well.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a one-time. Well, I guess watering it and maybe fertilizing the soil and your time costs money, but in general, the actual dollars that you just paid for something was only at the beginning.
Right.
And if it produces every season, then it's kind of like it just keeps on giving.
And it's a family activity too. So you look at it as far as quality family time, get
Yeah.
kids involved, husbands, wives, or whatever, and
Yeah.
people enjoy it.
Yeah.
We started, when we moved into our current place, it's got a little bit more of a yard, and we started doing herbs because we were always finding like, I feel like it's such a waste to like buy, you know, parsley, for example, is really cheap. But it's also, you feel like, oh, I have to buy a whole thing of parsley at the store in order to just have like 2 tablespoons worth. So we started doing herbs like parsley, cilantro, basil, stuff like that. And so it's been fun to have like an herb garden where it's like, sweet, anytime we want an herb garden, we can, you know, if like when you came in, you probably saw the rosemary out there.
I did.
Somehow it's still kicking.
Dang, that's awesome. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, because like I feel like herbs are, especially if you don't have a lot of space, I feel like herbs are great because, you know, we have a ton of cilantro in our diet, and it's, you know, really a lot better when you grow it yourself versus in a store. It's got just this really fresh flavor.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to have like herbs, you know, we don't have enough space to really have much vegetation like veggies and stuff like that, but we're thinking about what to do this year in our little
I know a
boxes.
guy you can call and talk to about that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that brings us to our first commercial ever of the show. Chauncey, why don't you tell us about your side business or hobby or whatever it is?
Yeah. So I have a business called Shangri-La Garden Consulting,
Nice.
and maybe we can get to the name in a minute. So basically, I meet with families and individuals who want to grow, and I walk them through the process. You know, what it's going to take. They usually give me a list of things that they would like to grow, and I tell them if they can or can't, or when they can and when they can't, and design the complete garden package for them, lay it all out. And for some, they want me to come out and actually do it. And in rare cases, I do that. So that's for individuals. I also work with churches who have garden ministries where they set up gardens to feed the homeless.
Oh, yeah.
And
Super cool.
Recently I started branching out to working with hospitals. So there's one in particular that we're hoping to seal the deal here in the next 30 days or so. So they want to have a community garden so their doctors and nurses can eat more healthy. You know, patients and visitors of patients can just go out into the community garden and get, you know, some fresh fruit and vegetables right there on premises.
Yeah. Wow, that's
so
awesome.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool.
You can find Chauncey's awesome business on Facebook if you go to, or you search Shangri-La Garden Consulting, SHANGRILA. You can also visit ShangriLaGardenConsulting.com, and that's his website for more information, which is a really interesting name. Tell us about where the name came from, Shangri-La.
Yeah. So one of my favorite R&B singers, her name is Tina Marie. I used to listen to her a lot in college.
Yeah.
And she had an album that came out that had a song called Shangri-La, and it was one of my favorite songs. It was a love song. And loved the beat, loved the words. And so many years later, I decided to listen to that song.
Yeah.
And it just hit me. I was like, wonder what that word means. So I looked it up, and it's actually a fictional place, Shangri-La, but it means paradise on earth. It's like a visual image of paradise on earth.
Yeah.
So then I thought about the song. I'm like, what? Oh, she was saying this guy was so great. He was her paradise on earth type of thing.
Got it.
Nice.
Got it.
So a lot of people that garden, they love the functionality of gardens, but they don't focus as much on the aesthetics. And so I kind of put the two together and say you can have a productive garden and it look good. And it looks like paradise on earth. It can look like Shangri-La.
Yeah.
And that's where the name came from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dang.
Because most people don't think of paradise as like the Mojave Desert, you know?
Right.
They generally think of it being green and lush, and maybe there's a beach, like a garden and a beach. You know, combine those two.
Dang, that's cool to hear the story behind the name. That's awesome. I've heard like that word before, and I didn't know about that song, but there's like a really famous recording studio also called Shangri-La.
Heard of that? Rick Rubin?
Yeah, Rick Rubin. Yep, yep. Nice. And so I just never knew the story behind that, but that makes total sense. It almost makes more sense for a gardening consulting business than it does for like a recording studio.
Right.
But man, that's cool.
Yeah. And it's also cool, you know, in Christian theology, the initial paradise was a garden.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's super cool to kind of have that full circle,
Yeah, yeah,
which is really interesting. So
Yeah.
that is cool.
it's pretty sweet. Before we wrap up, I have one last question. Is Olive Garden a garden?
It's a garden full of olives. Yes, it is.
Okay, cool.
That's
What
weird.
about
Is
the
it?
restaurant?
Yeah. Every time I go there, I try to get no olives. So
It also isn't very. It isn't very green. It's like
It's
kind of
not.
a tannish color.
It
yeah,
is.
that's true. Yeah.
Wow. Also, I don't feel like Olive Garden's paradise. Wait,
Yeah.
is there a bread garden? Is there such thing as a bread garden? Because
That's that's some more.
sorry, Olive Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gardens. Your own personal grocery store. Do you have a tag? For
Olive Garden, unlimited stick.
What's that?
It's like breadsticks. Like they're always just like unlimited breadsticks and salad.
Yeah.
And they're good. They're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gardens. Paradise on earth.
Beautiful poetry.
Yeah.
I love finding poetry in the things that people didn't intend to be poetry. Like, for example, the other day I texted John Shin, and we're talking about not retirement options, but savings options. And we're talking about for Remy's college fund, and we're trying to figure out like what's the best thing to do. And so he texted me back and he said, just email you some options. Life in such a short time frame is really not a great option. And I was just like, man, that's deep.
Yeah, that really is. Yep.
deep.
Yeah. Life is so short when you think about it. Precious moments pass
That's
in the blink of an eye.
He's talking about life insurance,
Right.
but
But it did sound pretty
whoa.
poetic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, yeah. You should
I'm
start
just like, I
snap
don't-
our fingers.
Yeah, I don't even know where to go with that.
Yeah.
Well, Chauncey, thank you so much for being on our show.
Man, thank you for
this
having
past
me.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was only one day of recording, but it felt like 2 weeks.
It
because
did.
It was so great.
Yeah.
Again, guys, check out Shangri-La Garden Consulting. It's really awesome. And seriously, get into the dirt and have some fun.
That's right.
Grow some things.
Come grow with me.
Come grow with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Is that your slogan?
It was one of them in the mix in the
Okay,
beginning.
good. Yeah, don't. I'm glad it's not.
Someone suggested it and we passed.
Yeah.
Focus groups are like, well, we've heard that one before. Bury it. Turn it into compost. All right, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.